Greg, can you hear me?
Now I can.
But can you hear me on the phone? All right.
Yes. I'm gonna try it again though. Okay.
But this mic is not. Really? Morning, how you doing? Good.
Anthony,
Greg, can you hear me?
am I on? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How many minutes do I have?
You have you have no minutes. They are public in this room. I don't believe your comment
Oh, darn.
will be appropriate.
I'll call back after 9. Okay.
Sounds good.
What's that?
Sounds good.
Hey.
Thank you. Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. Yeah. Can you hear me on the speakers now? Sounds like it. Check, 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 check. All right. I was wondering why I wasn't working. I forgot we set this up. You couldn't hear me or something?
Hi, Barry. Good morning. Good morning.
Turn they have the mic down. This mic is always hella loud. The girl know what she doing, Kurt.
Got everything set up. It looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Should I go cut off?
Please do.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello, caller.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to move my Teams over and my programs over out of my sun-soaked screen, so I couldn't see anything.
I'm getting a little worried about you guys on the other side.
So, is it working?
If you can hear me, it's working.
I can hear you fine.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right.
Check, 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 check. I'm getting worried about y'all out there.
Well, I was trying to move the Teams over so I could type in my name, and I just put my phone down on the.
I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I can't see anything. Where's my program? I can't.
Is this you 927?
No,
Is Greg barking somebody?
maybe him. He would called in as well.
Anthony?
Yes, Greg. It works,
Anthony?
Greg. Yes, yes, it works.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This dude Greg has called me like 4 times.
Four
bro.
times, yeah. That's why I heard him on the phone with you, and I was like, oh, maybe not.
Okay, we can switch.
Good morning and welcome to our regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors, Tuesday, November 28th at 9 a.m. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair Gallagher.
Here.
Supervisor Cottrell.
Here.
Supervisor Pedroza.
Here.
Supervisor Gregory.
Here.
Chair Ramos.
Here. Thank you. And at this time, I'm going to ask our Director of IT to lead us in the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with us today, we have a very, very special guest, one that it's going to take a lot for me to not bring him home. And his name is Duke. And Duke is a 1-year-old lab shepherd mix that's at the animal shelter. And you'll see he's got a little bit of a limp, and I'm going to invite Katie, our animal shelter, to tell us, manager, to tell us a little bit more about Duke and his story while we hang out.
Thank you. So Duke came to us as a stray found in American Canyon city limits. And he came to us with an injury to his front leg. It was later diagnosed that he was hit by a car, so he did have a broken front leg. Our partners over at CalPet fixed him up, and now he is on the mend. He has been in an amazing foster home that has been working on rehabbing that front leg. We also have gotten down crate training, impulse control. He's house trained. He lives in a home currently in the foster home with 2 other dogs and gets along well with both of them. And also he gets along great with kids. He is the ideal dog. And so if you guys are interested in Deuce, you can meet him at the animal shelter. You can go ahead and call us beforehand so we can schedule it with the foster. The number for the animal shelter is 707-253-4382. But this is Duke.
Thank you, Duke, for visiting us, and he is an absolute love, and he's a big dog, but he is so gentle and so kind. So if you're interested in adopting him, the Board of Supervisors will waive all adoption fees this week. And I do believe we have we have the information for the animal shelter to put up on the screen. And you can certainly go to our county website and find out more about adopting Duke or any of his animal shelter partners. Thank you.
Thank you.
That truly is the best way to start a meeting, to be able to love on a little animal like that. So thank you to our animal shelter for joining us in this partnership to make this happen each board meeting. We do not have any presentations, proclamations, or commendations at this time. Next, we will move on to our consent calendar. First, we will take on the consent calendar for special districts. Are there any questions or concerns from the board? Seeing none, I'll open public comment on the consent calendar. Seeing none in the boardroom, we'll turn to the phone lines. Consent for special districts.
No one on the phone line.
Thank you. I will close public comment, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the special district consent items 5A and 5B.
So moved.
We have a motion by Supervisor Gregory and a second by Supervisor Gallagher. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Is this public comment for anything?
We will get to public comment in just a moment. Thank you. We do need to move through our consent calendar at this time. Next, we have our regular consent items for the board, and those are items 6A through 6AG. 6A through 6AG. Mr. Letter.
Yes, Steve Lederer, Public Works Director. Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me. I just want to mention item R, which is award of the construction contract for the Partridge Road Bridge. That is the last of the FEMA-funded 2014 earthquake projects. So I just wanted to point out that milestone.
the milestone of 9 years to do a repair job. We appreciate the diligence of your Department of Roads and Engineering to help us get this through, and of course our auditor controller staff for being able to follow through and follow the money to get us to this point. Thank you. Are there any questions from the board on items 6A through 6AG? Seeing none, I'll open public comment on consent. On consent. I'll recognize you, sir, in just a moment. Seeing none in the boardroom, I'll turn to the phone lines. Do we have any consent public comment?
We do not.
Thank you. I'll close public comment. I'll bring it back to the board for discussion and decision.
So moved.
We have a motion by Supervisor Gregory, second by Supervisor Pedroza. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we will turn to general public comment. Sir, if you'd please approach the podium. This is for general public comment, anything within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors, and your time is limited for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. My name is John Huttinger. I live at 1107 Woodmont Drive in Monticello Park. I'm here after 60 years of not having streets paved to tell you that they're paved. And I'd like to thank this man right behind me for shepherding the project through. It was very smooth, and I must say that I'm probably speaking for most of the neighborhood. But I just want to come and thank you. I know you get a lot of negative input here, so today I thought I'd start off the day with some positive stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We really do appreciate the gratitude extended to our Public Works Department. Any other public comment in the boardroom? This is general public comment. Any general public comment? Seeing none, I'll turn to the phone lines.
We have none on the phone.
Thank you. I will close public comment, and we will move now to the Board of Supervisors reports and announcements. Supervisor Gallagher.
Thank you. Lots of things happening. I think we all were at CSAC, so probably attending different committees and meetings. Just wanted to report back on a few of those. It was great to be part of the Women's Leadership Caucus. Great information, especially around women's economic recovery during the after the pandemic. Just want to quote one stat. If all California women and working single mothers earned the same as men in comparable roles, the state's poverty rate for women would be reduced by 40%. That would add an additional $68 billion to the California economy. That was worth noting. In the Ag and Natural Resources meeting talking about disaster preparedness, there are many counties that are integrating their 211 system into their 911 system to triage calls during emergencies and disasters. So I'm not sure if we do that, but maybe that's something we can eventually look into. Government, finance, and administration. We talked a lot about actively recruiting for county staff, asking people who work for us, what will it take to keep you here rather than why are you leaving? So changing our sort of our mentality around that and figuring out ways to bring in people and keep them. The state of the state in that particular committee was that California is in a mild recession. With slow job growth and unemployment creeping up, although we did hear recently from economic advisors that we are actually not in a recession in Napa County, so I think we're doing better than most of the state. I'm just going to push through here. Housing, land use, and transportation. Governor's priorities are, as you know, around homeless and housing, mental health, climate resilience. We heard from Gustavo Velasquez, the HCD director. There is still a lot of funding in the Home Key program, and they are looking for ways to sustain that program. Okay, and then just lastly, I sat on a call for the local opioid coalition. We had a presentation from Placer County regarding their public awareness and education campaign called One Pill Can Kill. Really, really important to help parents and the community understand fentanyl poisoning and distinguish that from overdoses. So we do have a group of local people and professionals working on that. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Supervisor Cottrell.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I wanted to touch on a couple related items at the CSAC conference. I sit on that Agriculture, Environment, and Natural Resources Committee, and they adopted their 3 priorities for the coming year, and one of them is emergency management and response, including improved processes with FEMA. So I think the fact that we just talked about we're in the 9th year of earthquake recovery. I think we probably have some good examples and input to share with that group. The other item from CSAC I wanted to share was sitting in to listen to the first cohort of counties who've implemented Care Court and to understand the lessons they've learned there. And one of the takeaways was that for the counties that are on this journey, getting their public defenders involved early on has been productive for both the public defender and the other social services agencies. So I think that's worth us tracking the lessons learned there. And then locally, visited Angwin's Las Posadas State Forest with Chief Marcucci and CEO Alsop. So thanks to both of you for making the time to head up Valley. And we drove part of the evacuation route, so that was helpful for me to see that. And I know that's important for the community in Angwin. And then finally, yesterday, Supervisor Gregory and I at the Ledge Committee had a productive meeting reviewing the legislative platform. And we got good public input. And I wanted to say thank you to Andrew Mize, who's taken a lot of that public input and incorporated it in. So that's all for me.
Thank you. Supervisor Pedrosa.
Thank you, Chair. And I do want to acknowledge, Director Letter and the team from the roads crew. They've done a tremendous job. The roads that they're paving beyond, what was mentioned earlier was District 4, but I've been traveling throughout the district, throughout the county, and we're seeing a lot of progress, Steve. So getting a report out that aggregates all the roads we're paving, I think is going to be critical. But also like culvert, repairs that we did, along Ellis Peak and Westgate. It's little things like that that also make a difference. So again, I just want to give them a shout out for that. I had to miss Climate Action Committee yesterday. I was in San Francisco and I rode BART at night, and I'm not a spokesperson for BART, but I'll tell you, it is safe and clean at all times of day. And to me, I do want to acknowledge all the transit operators for doing a good job. Now I often think, would my wife, would my son, would my daughter, would my mom, would my brother and sister be comfortable riding public transit? And I think that's the lens that we have to continue to ask ourselves as we make these regional investments in public transit. On the housing side, part of the Berryessa Housing Finance Authority, we awarded Napa County $5 million. And I'll just say that's a historic investment. We competed with the 9 Berry counties. The fact that Napa was awarded that, I want to commend Jennifer Palmer for submitting the application. But to me, that's money that's going to get deployed in our community. That's going to make a real difference for homeless and housing. And that's part of our job as regional leaders, is how do you bring resources back into our community that positively impact the lives of people. That said, we also have to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable to achieve outcomes that we can go back and tell that story. So that way, when other folks are on these regional committees, they have an opportunity to tell the Napa story so we can be competitive in the future. So I just want to thank our team for submitting that application as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Gregory.
Thank you. We all went to CSAC. I attended the CSAC Board of Directors on behalf of this board. One big thing that came out of that was informative, and I wanted to update you on, is the changes coming around the Mental Health Services Act. We've all been hearing about it and a little worried about it. It's rolled up into what's called Prop 1, which will be on the ballot in March. There's 2 parts of it. One's a $6.38 billion bond, and the other are those changes to MHSA that we've been talking about. It would divert 30% of what's been going to services and programs in the mental health area to housing, which would have been a challenge for us. However, there's an exemption for small counties, and we fit in that exemption. So we'll have to watch how that plays out. We'll have to track it ourselves, and CSAC will be tracking it for us. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And as I spent a lot of time with my colleagues, I will not repeat everything that was said, but what I will add to what Supervisor Pedrosa said of the recent grant that we received from BAFA of $5 million that is specifically targeted for senior rental assistance is that this is actually very much in line with what BAFA hopes to achieve, which is to prevent people from falling into homelessness. And we definitely have the research to back up that if we can prevent people from falling into homelessness, we can actually reestablish housing security. And so this is going to go a long way. We know that senior housing insecurity is a growing need that needs our attention here, and these $5 million will go a long way to help us achieve that. So thank you. So that brings us to our next item, of which we had no items pulled for consent, and we do not have any administrative items for special districts. Next up, I will invite our Director of Information Technology, Jan Yesvang, to join us for the presentation of item 11A. I do believe we have a PowerPoint.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Ramos. Got it? Excellent. Good morning, members of the board. I'm Jan Yesvang. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Information Technology Services. And with me today is John Beslich, who is the Deputy County Executive Officer overseeing admin in that group. And also with us is Dan Glasscott, who's the Deputy Chief Information Officer for overseeing applications and development in ITS. So today, we want to continue our conversations on an exciting but important topic to the county, and that is data management, governance, and strategy. This topic we introduced to you back in March of this year, talking about kind of the challenges that we have with data, challenges with getting accurate and timely reporting and dashboarding. And so want to continue that conversation today. And so on today's agenda, want to briefly just provide a recap on what we talked about in March of this year, just kind of get everybody refreshed on that. And then spend a little bit more time on providing an update on where we're at today. It's been 8 months and a lot has been happening since that time on our journey to a data-centric organization. And then finally, I'm requesting an authorization and approval for a license agreement and professional services agreement with InfoVerity for a data management system. So with that, we'll just go ahead and go with the recap. So if you'll remember, we provided your board a presentation on an initiative to move our county to a data-centric organization. And this would enable us to better report on information, do better provide data analytics, use that analytics to make informed decisions and to improve service delivery with that information. During that time, your board approved a request for proposal to seek out a technology platform to help alleviate the challenges and roadblocks that we discussed in that meeting in March. If you also remember, we had Director of Health and Human Services Agency, Jennifer Yasumoto, Chief Probation Officer, Amanda Gibbs, and also Director of Housing and Homeless Services, Jennifer Palmer, present at that meeting in March. And they provided you kind of the challenges of what they have today as far as getting access to data in a timely fashion, That included siloed systems, and what that meant is that many of these siloed systems are hard to get to and to cross-correlate information, and these systems lack or have no data analytics capabilities at all. So the challenge was, if they wanted to correlate data, they have to manually pull data from these siloed systems and patching that data together to get to the information that they wanted. And this is just not sustainable, and it's not fully trusted data because we're just patching all this together. Basically, you know, we have the inability at this point to make the right decisions at the right time, and this impedes us from making, you know, having making changes to the directory of our safety net clients, our community members throughout the county. So those are some of the challenges.
There we go. And I just wanted to take one moment to, you know, really re-emphasize that one of the underlying goals for this system is to be forward-looking. We really want to have that forward-looking perspective and the desire and the drive to become a data-informed organization and to have data-informed decision-making as one of our capabilities, right? I definitely do not want any kind of, you know, concern or view of this as being a deep dive analysis of what may have been wrong or have errors in the past. Like there definitely will be a quality improvement aspect as we look to implement any system. But the goal and the entire focus is to be forward looking and to help support future decisions. So we'll transition to Dan next.
Yeah, so just real quick, as I mentioned before, in the last 8 months, we've done a lot, not just looking for a system, but also defining how we treat data, how we want to move forward with a data model and a data-centric organization. So Dan will be talking about kind of what we've been up to and then some of the next steps that we'll be moving forward with.
Yeah, so starting April, May, we put on 2 4-day workshops facilitated by Infotech Research Group. One regarding data strategy, which kind of helped us put together a strategic plan and a roadmap to kind of help us move towards this direction of being more data-centric. The second was a data governance workshop, which was more functional about the roles, responsibilities, policies to put in place to actually manage the data and do it consistently across the county. In May, we also released the RFP. We had 11 vendors respond. We brought back the top 5 in August for demonstrations and ended up selecting InfoVerity as the best option. They're proposing a 5-month project plan, and this project will simply be the mastering of data between the probation, behavioral health, and housing and homeless systems. And the majority of the work on the county side is really going to be around the governance, which is identifying the data, who's the steward of the data, what are the quality checks that we need to put in place, how are we going to manage it moving forward. And out of this, data governance team will essentially be formed, which will continue to move forward post this phase to ensure that the rest of the projects that do come down the line follow the same standards and processes to ensure the data will be consistent and managed in an appropriate way.
Okay, next slide.
Next slide. Thank you.
So just a final summary. As we work into a new countywide data model, specifically having data governance, to look at the information that we have, to control it, and the proper data management tools, this is an exceptional opportunity to really inspire positive change for the residents of our community, and for our staff here who are looking to do the best jobs that they can, and to present the best source information, so that accurate decisions can be made, and that all points of view can be considered. With the focus on quality, the staff are already doing an exceptional job and making a lot of effort. These tools will potentially help raise the bar to build confidence in the data that they already have access to, and to help validate the source information that is there between our systems. This is definitely going to be a challenge. This is not a quick project, a one and done kind of an effort. We've talked about 3 focus departments, but that is really just the beginning. That is the foundation effort. But it really will be a cultural shift opportunity for the county to work towards becoming a data-informed and data decision-making organization, if that's something that we really want to embrace. As touched on previously in the March presentation, we are not anticipating any cost savings, at least not initially. There will be a cost to the system. We are anticipating that there will likely be requests for additional staffing or the repurposing of staffing within our departments to be able to really embrace this change as we move ahead. But as we adopt the data governance and really build in that concept of stewardship and being data owners within our departments, you will see efficiencies achieved by helping break down silos, right? Each of those bridges that we can build across our departments, and the more information that we can share, gives opportunity for better decision making, which culminates hopefully quickly in better outcomes for our residents. It is a long process, but if we can really embrace this sharing of information and the quality of the information that we have for our decision making, I think the upside potential really is tremendous. Like this is a kind of a snowball avalanche moment in terms of how I see it.
So just to reiterate, our ask again today is the approval of license and professional services agreements with InfoVerity. The cost is $1.15 million. A little over $1 million is for a 3-year license with InfoVerity, and about $605,000 for implementations cost for implementing the project with these 3 departments. I know that might sound like a lot, but what we're doing is providing the tools for our staff to do their best to provide services to our neighbors, to those that are in need, and the data is going to help us raise that bar. I mean, we already do a good job as far as our departments in providing those services, but they can do so much better with this data. And open up for questions.
Thank you. I think one of the items that Supervisor Cottrell talked about is at our Health and Human Services Policy Committee. One of the things that we actually heard was that the counties that are beginning with care court implementation actually found that data was the most hindering point for them to be able to launch. So I think one of the things I'll just say as a comment that I am very interested in us, and perhaps this is more for the CEO of a moving up, is the focus of a governance policy and a data governance policy. Because as we are building this system and configuring all of this information to be able to deliver the service, the access and the transferability of that information certainly has a lot of legal restrictions for us. But knowing that in the 7 counties that have already begun with implementation of CareCourt, their public defender has really been the catalyst for being able to deliver these services. So I just want to say from a governance standpoint, I really think we need to look at how we're going to make access available in the right spaces for the people who are going to help us maneuver that new system. The next one is more of a question of, as we are looking at this, it's a 3-year license agreement. I believe we end up with CareCourt, is it in 25, right? In 25, so it'll be on year 2 of our license agreement. And what kind of measures do we have in place for a feedback loop to be able to integrate changes into the system, into the enterprise system itself, to accommodate the information we are going to need from that implementation of CareCourt?
Yeah, and although we don't have the detailed requirements at this point, we have an idea of what is needed. So with this first round, there might be data in there that can be used for CareCourt, or there might be additional data that would be needed. But that's the power of this system. It's saying, okay, we have another data set that we're looking at that we need to provide, and to the DA, to the court, the Napa County Superior Court. So there's another opportunity to say, okay, well, this data is sitting in this system. We need to pull that in, and then we can have that data be correlated to get to where we want. Now, again, we don't know what we don't know, but that is another focus area or potential for CareCourt.
Okay, I would just hope that we would reach out. Two counties in particular that have really focused on the data are Orange and Stanislaus. Stanislaus reported that they were a bit overwhelmed with the integration they needed of that data, and Orange County seems to have streamlined more on the front end. So I think that having that information, if this is where we're heading, I think that we need to have that information and at least that knowledge base of what bumps in the road we might have in building this system. Thank you. Supervisor Gallagher.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. And I understand how important it is that we have data systems that talk to each other, and that we are actually able to, build services for individuals and families, knowing what's happening with each of those people in a family, and bringing those services together. So I'm looking at this also as a model for better service delivery, really. So this is the initial phase, right, with the 3 initial departments. Do you have any ideas at this point, like how many phases we're talking about in terms of rolling out this entire program, and potentially how long that might be?
So I hesitate to use the word phase because to me, this is just an ongoing process. We're going to start with these 3 departments. It's people-centric, but we're also going to be looking at land. And, there's a lot of data around land. When we talk about groundwater sustainability and reporting on that, state reporting, that's another area. So, and also as we're going through and looking at the data, there are other questions that will come out of the data that we have just pulled in, where we need to now pull in other data sets to answer some of those questions, which is good. I mean, you're looking at the data and you have other things that you need to look at. So to me, it's just going to be ongoing. So I don't call it phases. I just say it's just an ongoing effort.
Okay. And the project roadmap, is that just for this $1.1 million, or is this
that's for any
encompass?
That's for any new project or any new, let's not call it phase, but any new focus area. We follow that same governance process.
Okay.
And we've defined a strategy, as Dan said, and a governance, and we are building a data policy as well.
Okay.
We're in the process of doing that.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying. It's like one part follows on the other. So there's not a set, like after phase 1 is completed, we can look and see what can we do now that we couldn't do before. That's not really going to be a question we can answer necessarily.
Well, one of the core scoring criteria in the system selection on the RFP was the ability to connect to diverse different data systems and to be able to consume data from a variety of sources, whether that be an existing database or even someone that has an Excel sheet. Like, we wanted it to be as flexible as possible. And as Jan had touched on, even though there are 3 departments in that initial focus area, I think just starting the governance process and bringing on those initial data sources will inform a lot of the process, and we'll be able to then look at, okay, what are the time requirements for this? I think as those departments, bring their data in, and IT is involved, we'll be able to see, okay, can we bring in other data rapidly, or do we need to do calendaring to space out what data sources come online into the repository.
Right.
And I'd also like to add that, as we do this first round, we might find during that process that, oh, well, this doesn't, the governance that we've kind of laid out doesn't really work the way we want it to, and we might need to pivot that. But that's okay. We want to get to a point where we have a strong governance, and if we have to modify that a little bit in this first round, we will do that. But that just lays the foundation for these other focus areas that we'll be tackling.
And it seems a lot of counties are struggling with the privacy issues, because not just, Care Court counties, but anybody that's trying to really build an integrated data system. And so I would imagine county council is going to be very much involved in figuring that out. That seems to be an obstacle to data sharing, whether it's intra-departmental or trying to data share in the community.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not just county council, but we have our county privacy officer that would be involved too. And we really have to, we have all kinds, it's not just HIPAA data, we have criminal justice data, and we have a lot of data that's confidential. And yes, we have ways to do it, but that's part of the governance, and part of moving forward is what can people see, what can't staff see.
Right.
Even within, if you look at behavioral health and HHSA, even within that organization, not all, that whole group cannot look at each other's data necessarily. So we have to be very careful with that.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Cottrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the 3 of you for the presentation. It's great to get the check-in and kind of understand where we've been, where we're going. And I appreciate the questions that have been asked. And, one of the things, Jan, you already mentioned was that understanding how to best capture and categorize data around land is going to be really important for the systems. So, again, we're starting with these 3 agencies, and so I think you kind of already answered this question, but I'm thinking about how your teams are forecasting some of the different needs of other agencies, right? Like PBES is going to be a lot of GIS types of information. So interested in that, and it sounds from what you just said about land, you're already thinking about that. But connected with that is some of our departments rely a lot on historical data more than others. So can you talk to us a little bit about how because I think some of what we're talking about is data gathering and use going forward, but we as a county hold on to a lot of historical data and documents. So how does this system envision how we deal with that?
So if the data's there, it can be processed through the system. So, for example, in the criminal justice system, the data goes back, I think, to the late 80s, right? So that's all in the system and can come in. Documents are kind of a different story. We're going to have to explore that as we kind of get to know the system. But from straight data, if it's there, it can be pulled in and kind of incorporated.
Okay, so some of it's a digitization probably question as well.
Right.
So 2 more questions. First of all, I like that, as you're saying, Jan, you'll learn lessons and pivot as needed. So I would love for you to be in ongoing conversation with this board about what you're learning, because that helps all of us learn about data governance. So looking forward to hearing about that. And then it's great to hear that you had 11 applicants and you brought 6 in, because that tells me that was a strong field. So a question about InfoVerity in particular, you said it's a 3-year license. After that time is up, what's your sense about the portability of the data structures, what we've benefited from them, if at that point, not that we want to ask that question now, but the ability to switch to other vendors? Because I know with something like CJNet, right, there's a lot of time and energy and resources invested in that, which makes it harder to step back and decide if we need to move around.
Yeah, so the 3-year was, to get good pricing for that 3-year period, but also we didn't go any further than that because we did want to say, okay, after 3 years, where were we at this point in time? Are what we set out to do, are we getting there? And I think at that point we'll have to make that decision to say, is this the best system? It would be difficult, difficult and challenging to switch to another system if we had to. We've done that in the past with other systems where we've moved to a new system, and yeah, it takes time and it's challenging, but it can be done. But please note that we spent months on the RFP process, going through and ranking and rating. We spent time with the vendors that were elevated, with demos, and so, and we've also, we have access to, with California IT Association, we know what they're doing in other counties. So I mean, we looked at different sources in addition to the RFP to trying to look at what's out there and what we felt would fit our needs based on where we think we want to go. And Dan mentioned that we did work with a firm to help us in our journey, because this is new to the county and it's new to all of us. But we wanted to take the approach that we wanted to do this the best way we could, and that's why we got some of that help in defining the governance and the strategy for data.
That's great. That's helpful to just understand that background. And then my final question is, and Supervisor Gallagher mentioned this, the question about privacy and sharing, right? Because there's some information in the county's databases that is publicly available, and then other parts that will not be publicly available. And it's important for, clients of our departments and others that information stay private. So I guess I'm making a comment that as we go forward, being as clear as we can be about what our efforts are to do that. And then, I've had residents say, well, if my data's with the county and the county does its best to protect it, but then there's a Public Records Act request, what happens then? So I think there's just a lot of uncertainty about what is ultimately accessible from things that sit in our databases. So I'm hoping we can help people understand that better.
Certainly, and some of this, the data, the elements that can't be viewed won't be viewed. We have the potential to do de-identify data, kind of summarize it up so that you don't necessarily know the details of what you're looking at, but you have counts. You know how many people are in housing homeless that have services, not which ones, but that have services from HHSA. So, we worked on that, and working with county council, working with our county privacy officer in making sure that we're moving in the right direction when it comes to privacy. And the same goes with any Public Records Act request that is vetted through county council, and we make sure there any information. Can we provide that information, and any information that we do provide that it's redacted. So there's a process for that as well.
Supervisor Gregory.
Thank you. I think looking down the road, the strategy of how we use this data to improve our systems and deliver better service, I think it's fascinating. It's such a great opportunity. I recall meeting a few counties at National Association of Counties conference earlier this year who have been doing this for a while and are deeply using data to run their counties. So just another plug, I said it last time too, let's look for those counties that have been doing this for a while and steal their best practices. Thank you.
Mr. CEO, that's a new light.
I got a light. Got a little button and a light here. Thank you. This may be kind of a dry subject. I noticed that we got maybe some students from school out here just mentioning you to keep you on your toes, make sure you're awake on assignment. Look, I had asked these gentlemen to come up today to present integration of data, making sure that we're able to make data-driven decisions is a best practice for counties. Right, it is the best thing that we can do for the business that we're in, for outcomes, delivery of service, business efficacy, etc. This is a best practice, and the fact that we're doing it here in Napa, our employees, along with all of our residents, our taxpayers, should be very proud because it's going to make us a better, more effective organization in spending taxpayer money at the end of the day. And there have been conversations around care court and some of these other things, you know, with the vein of our existence, right? The homeless crisis that we're in as a state, all these other things, these three departments, the data sharing among them that they're going to focus on is going to be critical to the success of programs like Care Court. I'll tell you, Care Court is a theory at best right now. It's an idea that hasn't been tested. It's a great idea if we can get it to work. That's getting it to work is what this is all about, is making sure that we're prepared because data sharing in that space is going to be critical. So I had a conversation with Ms. Yasumoto yesterday. She's not here today, but I did have a conversation with her around care courts. Time will tell whether or not this is effective in making us successful there. We'll see, but we are exercising in the right direction, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that not only for things like care court, but in other areas of the county, business areas of the county, that our data sharing is functioning so that, you know, it's accessible and the utilization of it by county employees is there. So with that, I just wanted to thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, John, for coming up and providing the information today.
Thank you. I see no other questions from the board as we exhausted those. At this time, I'll open public comment on this item. See none in the boardroom, I'll turn to the phone lines.
No one on the phone.
See none on the phone lines, I will refer the board back to the requested actions, of which there are many. To effectuate this in the agenda, which includes approval and authorization to sign the data management license, approval to establish a capital improvement project item, approval of a budget amendment to increase appropriations, an increase in appropriations and in Fund 2000 and an increase in appropriations in Fund 3000.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Supervisor Cottrell and second by Supervisor Gregory. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much for walking us through this. And yeah, I will go ahead and acknowledge with the students in the room. Seems a little dry, but something really exciting is about to come up. And that is item 13A, which I can say the lawyer in me geeked out on this item, and that is that our county will grow ever so slightly today in size. We are an original county here in Napa County. When the state of California established counties,
we've been this size, and today we are going with this action. We will grow ever so slightly, and that is super exciting. Ms. Craig.
Good morning, Chair and Supervisors. Becky Craig, Assistant CEO, and I'm joined with Ryan Fitzgerald with County Council. And yes, we are talking about 1.43 acres on our western boundary with Sonoma County. And we asked the board at this time to receive the petition from Sheldon Richards. We received it in September, and the county clerk's office has deemed it satisfactory. We do ask you to conduct a public hearing, receive reports, any testimony available, and then to make the determination whether there has been sufficient or insufficient protests filed and what the next steps will be. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Ryan Fitzgerald to give you more of the details. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, Chair Ramos and Supervisors. I'm here to give an overview of the procedure because it's a little bit unique. It's not quite like some of the other hearing procedures that you participate in. So you're not going to be voting to approve or deny the boundary change petition at the conclusion of the hearing. Whether the boundary change proceeds or is abandoned is going to be determined by any protests that are filed during the hearing. This board does technically have the authority to file a protest itself during the hearing. If that's something you'd like to do, let me know. We will need to continue the hearing so that we can work on that. The CEO's office has recommended that the board not file a protest and allow this petition to proceed. If at the conclusion of the hearing there are no written protests, I'm going to work with my counterpart in Sonoma County to draft an ordinance approving the proposed change, and I'll return that to you promptly. It should be within 30 days according to the code. And after the effective date of the boundary change, there's going to be certain information sharing requirements between county counterparts. Our assessor, tax collector, auditor have some information sharing responsibilities, as well as the superintendents of schools have some information sharing obligations, and we also have some reporting requirements with the state. A change to the county line doesn't itself change school district or special district lines, and any changes to those districts would need to be accomplished by a separate proceeding that's outside the scope of a minor boundary change process, which this is because we are considering a petition to move the line less than 5 miles, and it wouldn't reduce either county's area or population by more than 5%. So it meets the definition of a minor change. So if at the conclusion of the hearing there are written protests, you're required to adopt a resolution abandoning the petition. So if we do receive written protests that are sufficient to block this petition from moving forward, I would ask that you continue the hearing so that we can draft that resolution, because we don't have that resolution prepared today. And if there are any process questions at this time, I'd be happy to do my best to answer them. If not, I'd recommend handing it over to testimony from interested parties, starting with the petitioner's counsel.
Thank you. At this time, I'll just, for the record, say the hearing is open. This public hearing is open, and I would invite testimony from interested parties. You may proceed to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Ramos, members of the board, Lester Hardy. Here on behalf of petitioner Sheldon Richards. A little bit of background. The prompt for what became this petition was the discovery in the course of working on a winery use permit modification for Mr. Richards that the county line not only went through his property, it actually goes through the winery structure. So I immediately requested a meeting with planning department staff. We had a conversation about this, and question was raised, what does this do for Napa County jurisdiction? What does it mean? And without thinking too much, I said, well, we don't really need to think too hard about that. Napa County doesn't have any jurisdiction in Sonoma County. And so we were looking squarely at what could have become an enormous kind of administrative and procedural headache. How does one administer a winery use permit for a building that's straddling both counties? There was some discussion at that meeting of the possibility of working out a joint authority with Sonoma County, and I will be candid in contemplating simply what the process to reach an agreement might look like. I was sufficiently distressed to resolve immediately to go to my Westlaw database and see what a boundary change would require. I had no idea, and I was surprised a bit and certainly delighted to discover that some years ago, I believe it was in the 1980s, the state legislature created a process for what they call minor boundary changes, although I will note that moving a line 5 miles and shifting 4.9% of the population seems like kind of a lot. This change, as already noted, is not so ambitious. In fact, no one resides within the affected territory. There are no school children within the affected territory. This is truly a very minor boundary change. We provided, I believe you have it as part of your packet, a kind of color-coded copy of the descriptions and map. And there are 2 areas. See, I'm going to have to go to my notes actually to make sure I don't garble this, but we have 2 very small areas that are going from Napa County to Sonoma County. That's Area B, which is colored green, and Area D, which is colored orange. That's a total of approximately 2/100 of an acre. Pretty sure that's something around 800 plus square feet. The balance, approximately 1.39 acres, or thereabouts. That's in areas A, which is pink, C, which is blue, and E, which is purple. Those are presently in Sonoma County and become part of Napa. But in terms, if I may continue.
Do we have, let me ask council, is this a public comment or this is hearing and a testimony? So I do not have a prescribed amount of time. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
You can continue.
Interrupted my chain of thought. But with respect to taxation, we're really not doing much more than recognizing the status quo. This entire legal parcel has been assessed by the Napa County assessor for decades. I can't be certain how far back, but for a long time. So in effect, the parcel boundary has been recognized as a legal boundary, even though it was as a county line, even though it was not. And I did a fair amount of research into all of this and discovered along the way that the original survey, which was in the 1870s, it's referred to generally as the Kingsbury line, that line was reestablished in a recent past. The project, I believe, was undertaken by Sonoma County, and a whole series of projects were then contracted out. Each surveying firm got one section of that county line to reestablish the Kingsbury line, because over the course of 100+ years, the monuments were often missing, and the area on top of Spring Mountain was particularly difficult for the modern surveyors because it has been occupied and developed and used and planted and built upon. So the ridge that Kingsbury saw and located no longer exists as it did then. People have graded for building pads, they've plowed it and disked it for vineyard. And thus, the whole reason that line needed to be relocated was because there was so much uncertainty. And this petition reflects the consequences of that uncertainty, and I think corrects an undesirable situation in a very positive way. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. One final comment, I did see the comments that came in from Napa County LAFCO, from Brandon Freeman. I suspect he is unaware of the fact that in terms of how taxes are currently being collected, that what's proposed really reflects the status quo. I did check the current tax bill for this property, and you know, there's a long list of districts that receive notice per the statute, but presently on my client, the petitioner's tax bill, we've got Napa Valley College, St. Helena Unified School District, something for farm housing, Glassy Wing Sharpshooter, and San Francisco Bay Restoration. I suspect that all of these districts have assumed, just as the county assessor did, that the property line was the boundary line. And now, with the exception of about 800 square feet that's going to go to Sonoma, it will all be in Napa County. So, as has been, one final thought, I should have really led with this. This is a novel experience for everyone involved, and I want to thank staff in both counties for the work that was put into it. Deputy County Counsel Ryan Fitzgerald worked with his counterpart in Sonoma County, and we were in regular communication, getting things sorted out. Similarly, the county surveyor, Daniel Goschert, worked with her counterpart in Sonoma County, and the project surveyor, Chris Tibbetts at RSA. And of course, the clerk of the board was directly involved in the administrative aspect of all this. And it was a pleasure working with everyone. It was really a very positive experience from my perspective. And assuming that insufficient protests are presented, I hope we will be moving forward at the conclusion of this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hardy. At this time, I will ask if there are any other interested persons wanting to step forward for testimony. See none in the boardroom. Do we have any on the phone line interested in giving testimony?
We do not.
Okay. Next, I am making an invitation for oral or written protest. Is that correct? Yeah. Mr. Counsel, okay. Yes. Do we have any oral protests in the boardroom? Do we have any oral protests on the phone line?
We do not.
Have any written protests been filed with the clerk?
To my knowledge, no.
And Mr. Counsel, do I ask for public comment? Because that's missing on my...
Public comment can be part of the interested, comments from interested parties or the public. So the public is also welcome. So I apologize for not flagging that. But
okay.
Should the public have any comments that they'd like to make,
Thank you.
They can do that.
So just for good measure, I will ask if there is any public comment of testimony of interested persons to provide public comment. I see none in the boardroom. Any on the phone lines?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I will close public comment. I will close testimony from the interested
persons. Having received no protests filed with the board, either oral or written, I will close this public hearing, and I will direct staff to return within 30 days. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm going to go start on it right now.
Okay. And since this is novel for me too, did we do everything we needed to do here?
Let me consult my notes. I believe you did.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I missed anything. I don't think you missed anything. I think
Okay.
we're good.
Excellent. We are good. So that was, congratulations to those in the room. That was historic. So thank you, Mr. Hardy. And thank you for acknowledging our staff, as we all know that this was very novel for all of us. So that concludes item 13A for us.
Chair,
Yes.
can we have a quiz later on what the Kingsbury line is or something like
Oh my
that?
gosh. No, that's giving me bar exam trauma. At this time, I will invite our county council to announce our closed session items, and we will take a public comment on closed sessions thereafter.
Before we move on, was there a vote on that?
That was
Oh, you
the
just closed the public
We
hearing,
closed the
right.
public hearing, and he said no. There
We're
was
good.
no vote on it.
Yeah.
We come back.
We're good.
We said no decision today. So, yeah, it was. That's what we decided, that the procedure is the vote is with the resolution.
Correct.
Today was just direction. Thank
Correct.
you.
So this morning on your closed session calendar, we have two items. Item 14A, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code 54957.6. And this is with SEIU 2015, representing our IHSS workers. We also have item 14B, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code 54957B1 regarding the Director of Child Support Services.
Thank you so much. At this time, I will take up public comment on closed session items announced. Is there any public comment? Seeing none in the boardroom, I'll turn to the phone lines. None on the phone lines. I will close public comment on closed session items, and we will recess into closed session. And I will say that we do have some anticipated reportable action from closed session today. We are recessed. Thank you.
Let me know when.
Why do you look as happy as me? It's been a little bit of a lift. The first 5 months, whoo. Hey, at least there was no fires. Right, well. Well, not literal ones. Yeah, literal ones.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We are now back from closed session. And before I ask our county council to provide the technical report out on closed session, on behalf of the board, I have a special announcement to make. It has been public for some time that our Director of Child Support Services, longtime Director Janet Notley, would be retiring. And she is fulfilling that commitment to retire. And we're going to miss Janet and her leadership, and we wish her well. And we'll have the opportunity to recognize Janet and how she has grown the Department of Child Support Services at a later time. But her retirement will be effective on December 31st. And what we are going to do is we are going to promote our Assistant Director of Child Support Services, Douglas Deward, to Director of Child Support Services. Doug has been with the County of Napa, with this department specifically, since 2006. And we are excited to have someone that has served in many different roles and has been in that number 2 position and is really that seasoned professional that's going to be able to lead us into whatever comes our way in the world of child support services, which is a state function. His background includes civil rights litigation, family law, juvenile dependency. He's represented clients in both state and federal court. He was a private practitioner. And when he did join us, we were very lucky to have him stick with us as long as he did. Mr. Deward has served in a statewide capacity for California's Child Support Directors Association for many years, including the Bankruptcy Subcommittee and Legal Practices Committee and the Legal Advocacy Work Group. He will begin his appointment as director effective December 31st. His salary will start at step 3 on the job salary schedule for the position of Director of Child Support Services, with additional benefits applicable by County Policy 37C. We are beyond confident that Doug is prepared with his experience, his dedication, and truly his passion for the work that Child Support Services does. And we welcome you as our incoming Director of Child Support Services. We congratulate you. And at the same time, we thank Janet Notley because it takes foresight, planning, and strategy to ensure that we have a very qualified number 2 to take over. So thank you both for your partnership over the years. And Doug, we invite you to say a few words, and congratulations.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairperson Ramos. I appreciate being given the opportunity to say a few words. To begin, I cannot overstate how grateful this entire department is for this board's support of Director Notley over the past 16 years. Through earthquakes, fires, more fires, and dramatic legal changes in our department's legal landscape, she has directed us with unwavering dignity and professionalism. As for the future, it is bright. Napa County Department of Child Support Services was named the top performing child support agency in the entire state for 2023, from the time it takes to open a case to the time to the first collection. When Director Notley and I both became, the estate wasn't even near the top half of the statewide things. So we have had a paradigm shift in who we are and how we do it. I'm honored to be appointed as the next director for the Department of Child Support Services. Napa County is in my heart. Child support is in my heart. My team is experienced and amazing, and their well-being is also in my heart. When I graduated from law school 22 years ago, I had no idea where I would land. But I'm excited that this is where it is. Right here, right now. I look forward to serving the residents of this great county for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a lawyer, now I've got to do the technical thing. I'll hand it over to County Counsel for the technicalities.
Thank you very much. Closed session, item 14A, conference with labor negotiators. No reportable action. Direction was given to the county's labor negotiator. And as just discussed, item 14B, the board unanimously appointed Doug Durward, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, as the incoming Director of Child Support Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, congratulations. Welcome aboard in this new capacity. That has concluded our business for the day. At this time, we will adjourn to the Board of Supervisors regular meeting Tuesday, December 5th at 9 a.m. We are adjourned.